Hello, this is the Freethought Forum, sponsored by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalist of East Tennessee. I'm Joe Barnhart.
And I'm Jonas Holdeman.
And we want you to know, whatever your belief is part of the First Amendment. Whether you're a Jehovah's Witness, an atheist, a Methodist, or a Baptist, or a non-believer, whatever, it's part of the First Amendment of America.
And if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Even in East Tennessee, you're not alone. Today we'll speak about dreams, aspirations, or inspirations.
Yeah, I have a dream, Martin Luther King said. We all have dreams.
While we go over a few announcements in the introduction to our program, I hope you will plan on giving us a call. Think about what you're going to say. Call 215-2288. Now,
let's look at some of the dreams.
Joe.
Go. I'm too much in a hurry.
Okay, happy hour with the Atheist Society of Knoxville. Meet at Barley's tonight after the show for food, drink, and conversation. And on Wednesday, January 20th, at 7 p.m., the Cairo Cafe. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table.
And on Sunday, the first and third Sundays, at 10:30 at Pellissippi College in the cafeteria, the Rationalists of East Tennessee meet to have discussions, open discussions on very appropriate topics. And you are certainly welcome. On the 27th of this month, we're bringing in a scholar raising the question is, are there forgeries in the New Testament? Bart Ehrman, chairman of the Department of Religion at the University of North Carolina, will raise this question. And there are other meetings like this that you want to keep in touch with. But let's talk about dreams. I have a dream.
Joe, you're jumping ahead here. First of all, again, I want to remind you that if you would like to watch this program online, you may do so at ctvknox.org. And you'll be able to see the program streaming at that point. Here's another point. Every day is a good day to think of your fellow humans. One of our members got a call from Medic. They have less than 1 day's supply of blood on hand. We urge all viewers who are able to give blood to do so. I do. Well, I give platelets. Persons in Maryville can donate at the AAA building on the Lamar Alexander Parkway. People in Knoxville can call to find the location near you or go to 1601 Ayler Avenue, the Medic Regional Blood Center headquarters. Visit www.medicblood.com or call 865-524-3074 to see if there's a more convenient place. There is one out in the west part of town.
Yes.
Okay, Joe.
Okay. In the Bible, you have a number of dreams. In all literature, you have dreams because dreaming is a part of thinking. The Apostle Paul believed he had visions. Stephen believed he saw God or the glory of God, and someone, maybe the Son of Man, standing at the right hand of God. The problem with this is in the Exodus 33, nobody can see God. So we have, the problem is this metaphorical language? What we're suggesting is that people think often by using dreams as a medium of thinking. They picture think, or they hear voices. That's okay. The question is, all of our dreams, our aspirations, have to be put out there and tested if we're going to say they're useful. In fact, the Apostle Paul says, in effect, test your dreams. Test the spirits. That's the reason they did this in the biblical times or among the Greek times. Is people had all kinds of dreams, some thinking they had spirits visiting them, but they didn't always agree. And that's why even today you have many denominations in religion, is because they have a text, a scripture, but they have to interpret them. And that's, so what I'm suggesting, dreams are terribly important as a part of human thinking. whether you're a physicist or a minister, a school teacher, or you're collecting the garbage in our town, or a painter. Dreaming is a part of life.
Okay, first I guess I would like to talk about the context in which we are thinking of dreaming and visions and so on. First, I'd like to see if we can agree on a context for this discussion. It's generally agreed that our perceptions of the world arise from interpretations of our senses, or their extensions, by the brain, including our sense of time. All consciousness, including emotions such as love, fear, hate, lust, anger, awe, and compassion, result from types of activities or states in the brain. If a group of people share a common perception of their surroundings, then we will call that perception reality. If one person's perception is different, then we will call that perception abnormal, or at least suspect. If through experience we develop an expectation of what's happening in the world around us, and then perceive something that does not fit with our experience, then we should initially be skeptical of the perception and examine it very carefully. This goes to the ability to recognize and distinguish dreams, illusions, delusions, hallucinations, and disturbances.
All thinking includes suspicion and doubt and skepticism. All thinking includes that.
Yeah, but we need to develop ways to recognize something different in our own experience. Feelings of spirituality reverence all or activity states of the brain. The science which looks at correlations between neural phenomena and spiritual feelings is called neurotheology, or spiritual neuroscience. We leave open for the moment whether or not some not understood force could act directly to produce these states. Is there anything that you can think of at the moment that you would like to change in this or to add?
No, that sounds good. In fact, I think what we have to say is when we are perceiving something and others perceive it, and that's common agreement, it's the brain activity, but it's not just the brain activity. Now, sometimes we think we're seeing something, others aren't seeing it. There's nothing out there, and that is brain activity. But sometimes great thinking is just brain activity, because you might be thinking about the future, and you're trying to plan the future. The future is not there, and so you have to dream up possible plans and then test them out. And sometimes dreams can be dangerous if you try to follow them without testing the preliminaries leading to them.
Indeed. Dreaming is natural. If you have pet dogs and cats, you can notice that they dream,
they do.
Twitching and vocalizing in their sleep. But we can't see what's going on or know what's going on in their minds, but we can in human beings. Here we have a call coming in, and could we...
In the middle.
Could we ask your name, first caller?
Well, hello. Call me Lee.
Go.
Wayne?
All right. Well, I was wondering if you think that dreams are something that might connect us to a larger world, or if they're the result of just our experiences in life.
Okay. I can talk about mechanics. Joe, you talk about the...
Columbus dreamed of another world, isn't it? Others over there maybe obviously saw, but they didn't necessarily in Spain or Portugal. And so they had to dream about a world that was not before them. And I think what I want to say, dreaming is useful but not infallible. But that's true of ordinary perception.
Yes.
Have you ever waved at someone and then you realize that that's not the person and you feel kind of foolish? And that's so all of our perceptions and all our dreams are subject to testing.
Indeed, there are researchers who study this kind of thing. Yeah. They might observe someone dreaming and wake them, and then ask what has happened, and then try to correlate the description of the dream experience with eye motions, this rapid eye motion that we see even in mammals and even in birds.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you see the difference between these two? Someone came to me last night in a dream, and last night I dreamed someone came to me. Is there any difference?
Well, clearly there are differences in meaning. I think it would be difficult to kind of demonstrate that someone came. I mean, if your vision is a personal experience, which can't be verified.
Yeah, you could press me and say, "Okay, Joe, do you take this seriously? What do you do with it?" You say, put it to the test. And okay, my brother came to me in a dream. Did I owe him some money? Did I pay?
So do you guys think in maybe a dream we could have contact with loved ones who have passed away, for instance?
I think this may be the beginning of. Here's a possibility. This may be how religion began. That people believed that their fathers and their mothers or grandfathers came back. And then they speculated further that ancients lived on and they come back. And there's plenty of evidence that people believed that they had been visited by real people that had died, or people that hadn't died but lived in another part of the universe.
But there are aspects, certain aspects, if we kind of limit that, that we tested. There are people who believe in precognition. That is, in their dreams, they get a sense of what is going to happen, and can believe very firmly in this. But if you study this very carefully, what you find is that their memory of the dreams is very selective, selecting on things that, in retrospect, they say, "Oh, I see this, and I dreamed that was going to happen." But if you, and even there'll be a distortion in memory of their recollection of what they dreamed about. Now, if researchers do this, if they say, when you awake, if you write down your dream, and then and do this consistently, and now you go back and see what dreams were predictive and which ones weren't, you find that there's no correlation. It's a highly subjective
well, it is subjective.
Kind of
Let me ask you this. Do you think some people are able to use dreaming in the sense of daydreaming, not just wandering around, but focused daydreaming? Some people are able to use that more creatively and productively than other people.
Well, I can kind of speak from kind of personal experience. If I have a project that involves some complicated process, maybe different tools and so on, I can practice that in my mind. And then when I go to actually try to accomplish the task, I know what tools I have to have at hand, and I know, in general, the steps that are going to be involved.
That's kind of, would that be something like using the mind like a stage in which you're rehearsing what you're going to do, and then in the rehearsal, in the mind, you can pick out some of the flaws before you get into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now that's rational thinking, wouldn't you?
Yes. From some of my readings in preparation for this program, I came across the remark that, for instance, Albert Einstein was one person who did a lot of daydreaming, and one doesn't make a rule. One instance doesn't make a rule, but you can see how very effective people effective in their careers and life do participate in something like this.
Yeah, very, in that sense, creative dreaming.
Now, if you...
I would like to see, though, and I think you would agree with me, probably Einstein had a big wastepaper basket to say that didn't work. Would you agree?
Yeah, at least mental.
Yeah, mental and waste paper, yeah.
Yeah. So we must distinguish this productive kind of daydreaming from maybe non-productive, where you start thinking about things that are highly improbable, or the chance of accomplishing them are very low. But we must remember, don't stand in the way of someone else who is trying to do what you can't do, or you don't think is feasible.
Let me try this on you. I've studied the Apostle Paul a lot, and he's a fascinating character. I think he did a lot of thinking. I want to use the word thinking and dreaming. And we talked about this earlier, that he was dealing with a problem of how do you bring the Gentiles into the what would be called ethical monotheism, his version of religion. Part of his religion incorporated circumcision. That doesn't sit too well with male Greeks who are grown. And he came up with the notion that that's past. In other words, he simply said that's past. And he talked about circumcision of the heart. See, now he reframed this. If you can pardon the analogy, it's just as Einstein reframes a little, somewhat Newton. So Paul is reframing this. And he's also saying that animal sacrifices for poor people in the city is not very practical. And so he has the notion that there was a death that eliminated animal sacrifice. Now, to be fair to his Hebrew tradition, some of the prophets seem to have this dream too, like Micah and Amos maybe had some. So what I'm suggesting is they may have the notion that some supernatural being came to them, but the real meat of it is they are trying to use their brains and their experiences to solve practical problems.
Yeah, I think we have an example of a group who is very effective in this kind of thinking, and that's a group of politicians who are very adept at reframation, where they reframe issues in ways that they think they can sell them to the public.
Okay. Now, let me do this. I don't think in doing this, these people are necessarily dishonest. In other words, we all have to work within our framework. And Paul the Apostle, for example, is before Darwin and before Galileo. So he was in a highly anthropomorphic universe, that is perspective of the world. And so he had to deal with the problems within that framework. He couldn't come up. Galileo came up with another vision and tested it out and had some equipment to help him.
Yeah, as we've learned to extend our senses beyond that immediately available to us, I think our perception of the world has had to change.
Could somebody in the day of Plato have dreamed that a high percentage of the people in a town would be going at least 40 and 50 miles an hour?
That's horizontally, not vertically.
Yeah. And then going up into the skies takes more than 40 miles.
Okay, what about dreams of the Bible? What's your take on Jacob and the ladder?
Okay, I think it's like poetry. Poetry has various means of trying to express their thinking and their feelings, hopes, aspirations, and I think these dreams, these visions are people's hopes and dreams and thinking, trying to solve problems in a framework that they basically inherited.
Yeah.
Now, also in the book of Acts, for example, I think you could make a very good case that the Book of Acts has a lot of dreams, that this is written as an adventure novel. We don't know who wrote the Book of Acts. Now, some would argue the person who wrote the Gospel of Luke wrote also the Book of Acts. You could make a case for that. But we don't know for sure who wrote the book of the Gospel of Luke. And you have dreams and visions in both areas. And I think this is their way of trying to solve problems that were meaningful to them at that time.
Yeah. Now it's generally believed that during the course of our conscious thought, conscious activities, that there's a portion of the brain that suppresses thoughts and things that might be irrational, and that when you go to sleep, this control, this filter, is eliminated, and a lot of the dreams are the result of these suppressed ideas and so on coming to the forefront. Now, there are studies, there are people who engage in something called lucid dreaming, in which they try to control their dreams. It might start out as trying to remember the dreams more clearly, but then it's found that by proper thinking or some kind of thinking, they're able to control the contents of the dreams. So now we can see an example of, or perhaps a mechanism, other than being a complete charlatan, that Jacob might have arrived honestly at a dream if he was continually thinking about this in the way that influenced.
It takes a lot of thinking to go into certain kind of dreams. And as you well know, some scientists, while they're dreaming, they wake up the next morning, they've got a solution to a problem. Or at least they've got a trail that they hadn't had before to follow.
Yeah, I think from personal experience, if I have a difficult problem, waking up in the morning and just lying in bed and thinking about it, that often, if not come to a solution, at least come to a next step that I can pursue to achieve my goals.
You don't just deduce these solutions. In other words, you're saying, if I'm understanding it, a good scientist has rigorous logic and a bold imagination, both.
Oh, I see we have another caller. And caller, would you give us your name and let's hear from you? Hello.
Well, it must have been shy.
I can't hear you.
Oh, go.
Hello?
Sam? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, vaguely.
Go.
Okay, we have our technician working on it.
Go ahead.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to preface by saying I've been an atheist since before I knew there was a word for it. But when I was an adolescent, I had experiences with what can only be described as precognitive dreams. Now, that obviously presents me with a paradoxical problem, because I don't believe in anything supernatural. And I have come to think that perhaps this isn't just something that the subconscious mind does, but might perhaps be a difficulty in the way we understand space-time and the quantum mechanical sense, and perhaps the way consciousness interacts with the universe.
Okay, try this. See what.
Because these dreams were extremely accurate. They weren't very vague. It was almost.
Can you give an example?
Watching the scene, and then a week later, it actually happened.
Can you give an example?
And I
Guess not.
I've kind of struggled to sort out some sort of scientific explanation for this.
Okay.
And I was wondering your thoughts on it.
Try this. When you have dreams or visions, or whatever you want to call them, like this, speak them on a tape recorder, so you can have word for word the description at one time, and then later on see if they fit.
Caller, could you turn down your TV set?
Yeah, I'll turn it down. That's the only way I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
I have, one of the specific dreams was a death of a parent. And I recall it very specifically a week before it happened. It was very sudden. And it was their final words to me on their deathbed in the dream. It was very emotional. I woke up in tears and just sort of dismissed it as a nightmare. And then a week later, it happened almost verbatim, in exactly the way I saw it in the dream. And things like that had happened several times during my adolescence. It stopped after adolescence. But I just feel there has to be something other than just a coincidental explanation for it. But that, like I said, I don't think we understand the universe and the way consciousness interacts with it well enough to ideally describe it mathematically or, in something that would make scientific sense.
Okay, we're running close to the end of our program, and so we're going to cut you off. We'll continue to address your problem. I can give you some possible solutions that perhaps you may not like. One of these is we always, as young people, we have fears of the loss of our parents, and so it's not uncommon to dream this kind of thing. It would be nightmares. And then there's the other aspect that I mentioned earlier, namely that we sometimes modify our memories.
Yeah, we don't have a lot to go on, first of all, on this case. If you're going to really build a theory, a grandiose theory like this, you've got to have a lot of information to bring in, to put together a theory with a lot of hypotheses to go with it. And including, I've got a theory that people's memory is not very good. And I think there's a lot of evidence for that.
Okay, well, we're running out of time. We would like to invite you to send us email at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. That's just one word, freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. And you can call this station to purchase a DVD of this and past Freethought Forum programs. This has been Freethought Forum with Jonas Holdeman
and Joe Barnhart, and glad you're.
And thanks to Larry, Forrest, and Sam and the staff and to all of our callers.
Be with us next.